Hello, everybody. It's really good to be here with you all after all this time, and it really has seemed like quite a long time. Let's just get cracking and open the service with our customary chalice lighting. Ian's doing that.
We're still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. This morning, we focus our minds and look at what assistance our Unitarian beliefs might offer in helping us accept where we currently are and in working out what our response could be to the situation. Friends, let us set our minds to do that, joyful that we're all here together in our church community.
Thank you, Ian. Friends, we are living through remarkable times. Here we are again today, facing the same complex threat as we faced on the 15th of March, when we last met for a worship service. Yet we are not quite the same as then. As a society, we are thankfully learning more about this virus and identifying the specific areas of danger. As individuals, we're learning how to cope with our own emotions and reactions to what looks like a damaging scenario worldwide. Damaging economically, socially, politically, and personally. We are aware that many in the world are suffering from the loss of those they love. But we're also aware that there's a kind of light at the end of the tunnel in the form of an effective vaccination program. So that's the situation today. But at this point, I suggest we're going no further in worrying about all of these scary things. At least for a while, let's put them aside and concentrate together on sorting out our mental armor. We'll start by climbing out of any negative mindset we have slipped into. And what better way to do that than by singing a well-loved hymn? With that in mind, I have chosen cheerful and familiar hymns for today. You will hear a recording made by the Unitarian Music Society, and you will see the words. Please join in the singing with all the energy that you can. It's not easy, I know, to sing strongly to yourself. At first, it often comes out as a kind of thin, slightly embarrassing, squeaky noise. But remember, no one is listening except yourself. Give it loudly, and I guarantee you'll feel better. Our first hymn is an oldie from the Green Book, number 76, Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise, number 76. Written towards the end of the 19th century, its language is old-fashioned and poetic, but I hope you will look deeper there and agree with me that there's an essential truth buried in these words. I started writing this, searching for what to say about the positive effects of my Unitarian beliefs in dealing with the current situation, I had quite a disturbing experience. I realized three things were all happening together and were seriously upsetting me. The first, of course, was the severity of the COVID pandemic in all its nasty entirety and potential threat to health and well-being. Secondly, was the obvious advance of global warming and the limited and inadequate response to it. And third thing that was worrying me was the fascistic trends in world politics and the utterings of President Trump. These had together severely shaken my hopes for the future of our world, or more correctly, for the inhabitants of this world. I felt I no longer knew or trusted what I had concluded about anything in the realms of belief and spirituality. I no longer knew what my faith, the wellspring of my own actions and attitudes, was. In short, my faith was on a Shoogly peg. In my overbusy pre-pandemic life, I had foolishly never made the time to try to establish what I really thought about these matters religious. My consequent thoughts may be of some use to you if any of you have experienced these feelings too. But I have to say, having for now finished my self-imposed task, I realize that belief is a personal and individualistic thing. That it is unlikely that one size fits all. Where did I start? What do we know about the world already seemed a good place? And the answer to that question is not enough. Not enough to make sense of what it is all about. We've had some brilliant services in our church on our current attempts to understand our world. From physics, from ecology, from chemistry and archaeology, and from the life sciences too. What we have learned has increased our awe and wonder in the beauty and complexity of our world, but it has also demonstrated that there are many unknowns, too many anomalies unresolved, too many mysteries as yet unsolved, to allow us to make definitive statements on how and why we are here. As is often said, change would appear to be the only constant. Everything is in a state of flux. Here are some examples of the things I mean. We have found that we don't yet understand what is happening at the subatomic level of matter. Particles sometimes behave in inexplicable ways, and more strangely still, can behave differently dependent on the observer. How and why? A mystery as yet. We can send humans on space journeys within our solar system, but in our universe, we do not fully understand how time and space operate. Another mystery as yet. We have learned about the evidence for our continuing evolution. But to what end? We don't know. We have learned much from services re the social sciences about how our minds work. We humans are complex creatures, but the only mind we can get into is our own. And even then, we can delude ourselves about why we do what we do. We cannot safely say what reality is. That appears to be a matter of individual perception, influenced by many factors, limited by the efficiency and sensitivity of our receptors, our human senses of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, and perhaps just limited by the capacity of our human brains in their present state of evolution for us to envisage or comprehend what it may all be about. I recently watched an episode of The Sky at Night. In it, the Crab Nebula was under observation. Ordinary photographs showed it as a collection of bright objects. But interestingly, the picture changed radically when the receiving apparatus was set to pick up infrared light only. As a result, the equipment was then set to be sensitive to a whole array of different wavelengths of radiation. A colour was assigned to each of the different wavelength pictures, and all the images combined. What emerged was a complex and beautiful picture. Reality was enhanced when we were able to add in the results from the different receptors. Is it so ridiculous to think that there may be other components to ultimate reality if we only knew about them and had the correctly designed receptors? For instance, could we have a sixth sense? If we limit ourselves to a scientific approach, the only logical thing we can say is that it looks like we do not know for sure what God is or if such an entity exists. There is no proof that there is divine purpose in the ordering of our life on earth. But to my mind, and of equal validity, there is no proof that there is not. Perhaps I was looking in the wrong place. Is the answer somewhere within ourselves? In our modern society, there is a deep distrust of this method. We've been trained to trust observable evidence only, hard facts. Subjective evidence from individual experience has been shown to be fake in cases in the past, and of course, these can always be classed as the product of a disordered mind. Yet, I still think it's reasonable to have a further look in this field, as it constitutes such a huge area of human experience. So common, we have a name for it. We term it our spirituality. Down through the millennia, in certain circumstances, humans declare that they have felt the presence of something else, something very special, a pervasive sacredness, something out with themselves. They have sought connection and communication with it. They have lived in joy celebrating it, and they have died maintaining its existence. It seems to answer an internal need, which many recognize and describe as their soul or spirit. It is surely reasonable to speculate that we may possess a sixth sense, tuned to vibrations of a different kind altogether, providing a strong indication that there is another valid component to being a human being, in addition to the ability to think and judge rationally. A component more evident and exercised in some people rather than in others, some cultures rather than others, in some ages rather than others, spoken of as the soul by many. It's not a new concept. To depend on knowledge and step-by-step reasoning only in answering the big questions may be too narrow an avenue of approach. After all, we humans do not act or make judgments only on that basis, but we include our emotions, our feelings, our beliefs, our sensitivity to one another. Decisions made without these factors are cold and often ineffectual. Love has a special place in our hearts. We can be altruistic in our actions. It is we who have created the notion of ideals. We experience awe and wonder, and we cannot explain intuition or some other examples of psychic phenomena. Surely these factors constitute another valid dimension of our existence. We begin to see that ideas of God and divine intention are altogether of a different order from the material world. We are talking of a world of spirit, of ideas with which we already feel some connection. Are we really going to say it's all a product of our needs and wants as a human being? A product of earlier unhappy events in our lives, which makes us crave and invent the comfort blanket of belief in some kind of benevolent force or energy? If not that, perhaps it's faults in the wiring of our brains or the chemicals within it which determine our feelings. Perhaps that is the case, but maybe it is not. So, for me, there's no absolute assurance anywhere that there exists or does not exist a deity of any description, that life has a meaning or not. Whichever road you go down on this one, whichever approach you take, you end up in a mystery, a confusing sea of uncertainty, having to make a leap of faith, or, if you prefer, a leap in the dark, if you want or need to believe in some kind of God, in some kind of benign force at work and in our world. Some people seem able to live happily without taking that jump. Others, like me, are not. It is an entirely personal decision, probably dependent on one's basic nature, upbringing, and life experiences. However, in my case, that decision was not as arbitrary and difficult as I first believed. For me, the leap is not entirely a blind one. There are other indications to be considered. One of these is the sheer joy of being alive. It's hard to believe you're a cosmic accident. Let's sing about that in our second hymn, which is number 3 in the Green Book. The Joy of Living, number 3.
Of
In my continuing doubts about faith, I came across two similar avenues of thought which helped me. The first one was an old strapline from New Unity Unitarian Church in London. The strapline dates from 2006. New Unity advertises itself as a non-religious church. The strapline is believe in good. Believe in good. Here is the advice that goes with it. When you are no longer sure what you think about God, examine what you think is good, in the sense of what is good to promote, to have as your goals for living. A similar idea was expressed by Richard Holloway, the former Anglican Bishop of Edinburgh, in a recent talk in support of his latest book, The Stories We Tell Ourselves. His thesis ran, when surrounded by uncertainties, look for the certainties, he said, the things you already deeply value. You may find that the good and divine intention seem much the same thing. Well, I had to go at that, and when I did that, I came up with the values embedded in Christianity, values reflected in the purposes and principles of Unitarianism and Universalism, obvious in the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and appearing as fundamental beliefs in many other cultures and religious backgrounds other than ours. Loving kindness in dealing with others, exercised with respect, tolerance, honesty, and compassion. Granting the rights of all to live with justice and freedom, to enjoy good health and education, and the duty we have to look after the best interests of others as well as our own. Now, the source of these ideas doesn't bother me particularly. Some claim they came from the orders of a supernatural entity. Others say you don't need a God to come to these conclusions. It is the collective wisdom of human generations, the best methods of ensuring the survival of the species. Does it matter? I think not. If the end goals are the same, I've no problem with how you got there. So that was the values explored. And now for the certainties, the things I treasure most. Here are the treasured things in my life. And I'm sure many of you share some of them at least. Firstly, like most human beings and other animals, instinctively I treasure my life. For all the problems, none of us are too keen to depart. Secondly, I treasure my relationships with other people, my family, my friends, and I care about the world community of which I am a part. There is no doubt in my mind at all that these relationships are improved to the degree that we are willing to exercise loving kindness, mutual respect and tolerance, a sense of justice. It seems to me that our personal existence is a lifelong learning process in how best to live as a human amongst other humans. And I think that is a good purpose to have for a life. My third treasure is the precious planet on which we live. I am in awe and wonder of the natural world. Scientific discoveries only serve to enhance these feelings. The beauty and complexity of our planet and what lives thereon sometimes overwhelms me. The interconnectedness of the physical laws which govern it absolutely amaze me. I have many times felt something holy is at work in our world. One of the most upsetting days I experienced lately was the day the forecasted extinction rates for plants and birds and animals was announced. What greater mistake could there be than trashing our wonderful world? For me, there is a distinctly religious dimension to that. It feels like a form of sacrilege, no less. When we look at the problems of the world, we see they are largely man-made. We see no magic God who is going to make them disappear or is going to rescue us from the consequences of our short-sightedness in disregarding the laws of cause and effect which regulate our planet. We need to expand our ideas of whom we wish to protect, not just our own immediate societies, but worldwide to encompass all human beings. And we are going to have to do all the sorting out and fixing ourselves, collectively and individually. The way to do that is to act in the ways based on the values which we claim to have. It's a huge task, isn't it? But I am not without hope. As a species, we are very talented and inventive, and I don't think that mankind is basically flawed and destructive. But we all do have to choose. Will we be a destroyer of life or a builder? We approach a critical moment in our history. These thoughts are also resonated in the words of writer and environmentalist Alastair Macintosh, who was the keynote speaker at the virtual GA meetings of April this year. In his speech, Dr. Macintosh asserted, "We can regard ourselves as privileged to live in this time." Why? Because, in theological terms, it is a kairos moment, a turning point, a critical point when things do have to change. It's a time when we're called to deeper meaning, to deeper service, to the world and to those around us. And that seems powerfully true to me. So far, so good. But where will we get the strength and inspiration to do that? Are we to find it all from within, spurred on by the preciousness of the things we value? I have come to believe that there is another source, something else to assist. Handiest if I just give in and call it God. Though I have the usual reservations about doing so due to lingering negative historical associations of the word. What follows, I hope, will be recognizable to many of you. I share it with you in some trepidation, because I would not like you to think I am suffering delusions. I suppose I have to face the fact that perhaps I am, but I can only tell you the experience I describe seemed very real, deeply moving and comforting to me at the time. This year, in my springtime garden, the growth was amazing, resulting from a helpful mixture of warmth and moisture, a general pattern of a couple of days of sunshine, followed by a couple of days of rain. Working in my garden one day, I paused and stood still. There seemed to me to be a palpable sense of creative energy pulsing through every growing thing, the mysterious and unfathomable struggle for life. We are all endowed with it. Every living thing is, even coronavirus. I looked around. What a mystery we live in. What intricacies and miracles on every hand. On a rational level, I knew what this energy was. It's the energy in the warmth radiating from the nuclear furnace, which is our sun. And where does that come from? It's an effect which derives ultimately from the Big Bang, we are told, which in turn was caused by nothing. Another mystery. Something else we just don't know. That's what my brain was telling me. But overriding that, my feelings were also speaking to me. There seemed something wonderful, enduring, and powerful evident there, yet a deep feeling of peace and lasting tranquility. It was one of these rare and special moments which I think are of spiritual significance. It seemed like a kind of testimony that my God was there in the creative energy of life, a sacred, energizing spirit that, because we are alive, we also possess to a degree. So that is my God. Let me say it again. My God is the creative energy of life, a sacred, energizing spirit, which, because we are alive, we also possess to a degree. In thinking about that experience later, it does not seem to me to be completely unrealistic or merely the product of my imagination. Our science tells us that in our world, all matter is ultimately composed of electrical energy, every atom of everything, including all of us. Perhaps in the vibrant world of springtime growing things, it's just easier to feel a connection with this energy, which is present to varying degrees and configurations in everything. To me, that idea explains the restorative effects of a walk in the fresh air, experienced by many later during the present pandemic. Without spiritual energy, we achieve nothing of worth. So I urge you, seek out ways of restoring your levels of spiritual energy. That might be through nature, like me, but there are other mediums. Beauty, art, music, the conviviality of other people, and achieved importantly by relaxation, contemplation, meditation, and most importantly, solitude and quietness. Seek to recharge yourself with sacred energy, which can help you to build a better world. Choose life. Accept your relationship with God. You are a co-agent of the Holy Spirit. How about that for a real meaning to your life? So, pursue your goals. The present situation doesn't give you a reason for inaction. In fact, it's full of opportunities. So, relax now, close your eyes if you wish, and listen to Alison Spurway as she reads a poem by a member of Lewisham Unity, Eleanor Chiari. Written in the springtime, it was reproduced in the Inquirer of 2nd of May.
Friend, take care. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Let each hour reveal itself to you with the radiance of a bluebell forest. Consider its shape like you are holding a new robin's nest in your palms, and let stillness enfold you like a summer lake, still warm and studded with stars. I don't know when I'll be with you again, or you me, but time is ours to give thanks for food and shelter, and for those still working out there to heal, protect, and feed us all. It is time now to plant trees, vegetables, and bee-friendly flowers, to serve on virtual committees, to put rainbows in windows, to make tea and art. It's time to knit and sign petitions, to write manifestos, sympathy cards, and love letters. It's time to wash dishes and quilt blankets, to teach children and call elderly relatives, neighbors, and long-lost friends. Let's be fully present to the people in our lives, in our homes, or through our screens. Let's smile at strangers, dogs, and children, even and especially from 2 meters away. Let's dig deep into our pockets to reach out to those who suffer in our communities and in far corners of the globe. A time will come again when we'll hold hands and dance, chant in yurts, and sing in chapel pews. We'll eat in restaurants and sit in crowded theatres. Our time will come to run for office and gather in protest. We'll hug at weddings and namings. And we will once more sit at the bedside of our suffering loved ones and bury our dead, standing side by side. Now is the time to mend what's broken and mourn what is lost and can't be fixed, to speak up for kindness and for justice, to light chalices and kindle new ideas. In this great turning, all that we do is needed, and so much more must be done. Only you know what it is that you have the strength, the courage, and the power to do more of today. Do it gently, with purpose and with kindness. Together, we will learn to lead in love.
Thank you, Alison. Finding your faith is not an airy-fairy or pious holy-willy type thing, fanciful thing to do, nor a means of making yourself more comfortable and sitting around in a comfortable spiritual dwam. Your faith is important. It is a thing of energy. It's a call to action to help make the world a better place. Let's finish with the hymn 147 in the Purple Book. Spirit of Earth, Root, Stone and Tree, a great favourite in our church, number 147.
Spirit of earth, root and tree, and free, Spirit of love expanding in me, Spirit of life breathing in me, inspiring with living energy. Spirit of life, you are my song, singing my soul all my life long. Guide and guide me, keep me from wrong, oh, fill me with sacred energy. Spirit of nature, healing and free, Spirit of love expanding in me, Spirit of life breathing in me, inspiring with living energy.
It's time to conclude our service, and we will extinguish the candle. Thank you to all of you for being here and for listening. I hope you're coming to the coffee Zoom, which will meet up in a few minutes. In the meantime, let's listen to the postlude.